Howdy, folks. Welcome back or welcome aboard. The Hilltop studio was very dangerous tonight. It was hard getting in here. There were just too many lines and cords, and well, I got my headset all hung up down. Anyway,
I know that.
How is everybody out
fell.
there? Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. Glad you're here. Welcome back or welcome aboard. You are listening to the Doc Owen Show. I am joined in the beautiful Hilltop Studios by...
I'm a surefire.
And
Uncle Bocce.
Uncle Debachi. Full house, ready to rock and roll. The title of tonight's show, March Madness, Q style. We just kicked off the March Madness of college basketball and had a couple of close games or whatever. You know, and so it's underway.
I know Temple lost. Never mind. Go ahead.
You got it? Okay. So we are all over the social media for the time being. You know, we'll get into that when we get into our Q discussion. But we are, if you go on to Facebook, or the best place to find us is on Twitter. We are Doc Owen Show, DocWenshow. We have a blog, and the much anticipated DocOwenShow.com/store is coming together.
Yeah.
Our IT service provider, a very bright young man that knows how to set up the type of site that we wanted to set up, an affiliate marketing kind of site, and add stores to our .com. We have an 11-hour time difference between the two of us. So Miss Surefire is doing a good job, but he's winding down when we're winding up.
Yeah.
And he's getting ready for his day when we're like, dude, leave me alone. So
good night.
It's been a bit of a challenge, which means it takes a little bit longer, you know, because it's not totally interactive. But he's doing a good job, and I think you'll like what you see. Some of it has already taken place. If you want to go to DocOwenShow.com and just get a view of the main page, you can tell it's already changed what it looks like. We have free apps for both iPhone and Android, which is a great place to listen to the show. If you're on Twitter, you'll be notified. There's a link. Bing, you're on your phone, you're on the show. And it's also a great place to see our library of shows goes back, we're in our 6th year. So there's a huge library of information, interviews, facts, figures, and fun times that you're welcome to listen to and spread amongst your friends. After those, what else do I need to tell them? Is that about, I guess that's all of our kind of self-serving announcements.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Then we will begin the show as we do in a very traditional manner, just to kind of set the tempo correctly, and so you'll know how it goes. Ms. Surefire leads us off with an inspirational quote. Uncle Bocce follows with something interesting about today in history. And then I rounded out originally with a leadership quote, and lately those leadership quotes have actually been Bible references, biblical references. Because of some training that I am going through, I thought I would spread the wealth. So, Ms. Surefire, take it away.
And tonight's quote comes from a site that I haven't quoted from in quite a while.
Okay.
It's from dictionary.com.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
it's been a long time.
Oldie but goodie.
That's right.
Okay.
Yep. But some things came across today that look kind of interesting.
There you go.
So tonight's quote comes from a gentleman by the name of Charles W. Eliot.
Charles W. Eliot. Okay.
He was an American academic, and he served so far the longest term as president of Harvard University. Way back in the day.
Wow. Okay.
Way back.
Ooh, yeah.
Way before cell phone.
It was a different school back
Harvard
then.
College.
Yeah.
It was probably
Yeah.
Harvard
Very
College.
different.
Yes. He was very instrumental in that university. And his quote is, Books are the quietest and most constant of friends. They are the most accessible and wisest of counselors, and the most patient of teachers.
I like it. I like it.
I do too.
I got a feeling there's a few members of the audience that weren't really paying attention till about halfway through that. Will you do it again for us?
Sure. Books are the quietest and most constant of friends. They are the most accessible and wisest of counselors, and the most patient of teachers.
Very well done.
Interesting.
Good.
Yeah.
And I chose that one too because I'm planning to go back to
Here we go
school.
again.
Oh,
Miss Surefire is
Back
diving
to the
in.
future.
yeah.
Diving back into academia in May.
Good
Good
for you.
Yep.
Lord.
So,
Good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
What?
What?
What do you got?
What do I got? I don't have anything for today, but yesterday. Yesterday was a very important day.
Well, yeah, it was Wednesday.
Right. But in 1854 was actually when the Republican Party was founded.
Oof.
1854
We've
on
been sorry
March
ever since.
20th. Yeah. Oh, when it was
Remind
formed,
me
it
of-
was a great party.
There
Now
you
it's
go.
Remind
Yeah,
us
that's a
again,
joke.
because my memory, you throw so many facts, figures, and information at us every week.
Mm-hmm.
Who was the vice president that came up with the grand idea of a party? When he was vice president and then he became president. So he was one of your guys that you
Oh.
talked about.
Yeah,
Who
it
was that?
That was the guy before Andrew Jackson, or after Andrew Jackson. What was his name? That
He was the VP for Andrew Jackson.
Yeah.
And that's what brought it into focus, was having a party ticket as opposed to a split ticket of the two highest vote getters.
Yeah, right.
Right?
There you go.
But you don't remember his name. Okay.
Millard Fillmore.
Bingo.
There you
See,
go.
it came back.
Wow.
Once you learn something, it's
did-
there. You just
Yeah.
got to search for it.
Say click,
Yeah,
keyword
exactly.
search. Okay.
And that should help the audience why it's understandably difficult for me to have a conversation with somebody who all of his facts, figures, and information are approximately 200 years old.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Good job.
just one more thing, because we're going to be talking about him today. In 1965, LBJ
Yeah.
sends federal troops to Alabama. So,
Okay.
you know,
Now you're going to tell me this is part of history.
that is part of history.
It is not.
What do you mean?
I was there. It can't be history if I'm still alive.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I apologize
Past
immensely.
event.
History
Does
is
that sound better?
yeah,
Okay.
past events in my lifetime. Okay.
Yeah.
So tonight's quote comes from the book that a friend of the show gave us. Thanks, G. God Bless America, Prayers and Reflections for Our Country, which are greatly needed and appreciated, I'm sure. This one's about stewardship, and it's just a little piece of history that I thought even would interest Uncle Bocce. The title of it is "In God We Trust." Okay. In 1864, the Congress of the United States of America approved adding "In God We Trust" to the 2-cent coin. In 1908, legislation was passed, and "In God We Trust" was mandatory on all coins. In 1955, "In God We Trust" became mandatory on all U.S. coins and paper currency. 1955. And in 1956, the year following, "In God We Trust" became the national motto of the United States.
All under the great president Eisenhower.
Dwight David Eisenhower.
Right.
So, and I think that we should know, and it's fairly apparent, there was a method to his madness that will come up in the Q discussions. So, Uncle Bocce,
Yes, sir.
we have no guest tonight,
Good.
but we have a lot to talk
not
about.
good.
Well, that's just the way it
Yes.
works.
Yeah, well,
that's the way it works. It's,
Yeah.
it's spring break time. It's, there's our folks that we would have on the show as well as ourselves have our own lives, and so there's just certain things you have time to do and not.
Right.
So,
right. Exactly.
What do you got for us in the way of what you're going to call a historical perspective,
right.
and what I'm going to call my teenage years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Okay.
Actually, they were my early 20s.
The 36th president of the United States, Lyndon B. Johnson, he became president because of the shooting death of John F. Kennedy.
Yes.
So he took
yes.
He took office then.
And conspiracy theories would tell you that he had a hand in it.
Well, I wasn't going to say that.
Why not?
Well, because that's what I believe. I think he definitely had a hand in it.
He and George H.W. Bush.
Yeah, I don't know about him, but I know.
I do. Bush was the head of the CIA at the time.
Right. Okay. I can see that. Well, he was educated in local public schools. He eventually did go to Southwest Texas State Teachers College, which is now Texas State University.
San Marcos, Texas.
It's San Marcos.
Right up the road.
That's where my daddy went.
It's a good school.
Yeah.
And he also, this is something I didn't even know about him. He went to Georgetown University to study law.
Yeah, Georgetown had a great law school.
Oh, yeah, I know that, but I mean, I didn't know that
he went there.
He went there.
Yeah. Yeah,
amazing.
He certainly didn't have to take any English courses.
Yeah. So, in his own right, he was elected to his own term in 1964, along with Hubert Humphrey. And guess who his opponent was? The great Barry Goldwater.
Right.
Boy, did they skin him alive.
Yeah.
It's really a shame, but he just won.
LBJ's ruthless.
He is.
Was ruthless.
Yes, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. He had his cabinet pretty much leftovers from Kennedy, but then he chose some of his own. Some of his accomplishments, and I'm going to make some off-the-wall comments here. Johnson's greatest thing was called the Great Society.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Now, some of the things that were in this Great Society, because what he wanted to do was continue and bring back FDR's New Deal, all the programs there. So, anyway, it included anti-poverty programs. Remember the war on poverty?
Oh, yeah.
After how many million? $60 billion or 60.
Oh, yeah. I lived through
Yeah, and right, exactly. And today, poverty is exactly the same level, but yet the government has spent billions and billions of dollars to fight poverty. So
everything he did had one intended purpose.
Yeah.
No matter what he called it.
Yes, it did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we going to tell the audience what that is?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
it was to bring socialistic ideas into the government, to expand the government, to make the government stronger, and the whole thing was power.
That's a very polite way of putting it.
Okay.
Okay.
He was a bully.
It was to completely enslave the black population.
Bingo.
That's all it was.
Bingo. And I'm going to tell you something that you may not know about that. Okay? Yes, he was big on civil rights legislation.
Yes.
When he became president.
Right.
However, as majority leader in the Senate all those years before, he was anti-civil rights. And he bullied and bullied and bullied. He did not let it pass.
Well, because he wanted the glory for himself.
He wanted exactly. And at the time that
he was probably one of the best politicians.
Oh, absolutely.
That's ever been in the government.
Absolutely.
I mean, politician.
Yeah, politician.
That's not a flattering term.
No, he was far above. Now, along with that, the passage, you know what this man said? This is an actual quote.
Is it the one where he uses the N-word?
Yes.
Okay.
It's the actual quote that he said. I'll have those N-word voting Democratic for the next 200 years. That was his attitude.
Well, but tell the audience what that was in reference to.
That was in reference to the passing of the civil rights.
Of all of the welfare programs,
the
welfare programs he wanted to put together,
right?
Was he said that was what he was talking about? Was I need this money, and here's why.
Yes,
because I'll have them voting Democrat for 200 years.
Yeah,
and started giving it away.
Exactly,
right?
Exactly. He created the Medicare, Medicaid, some environmental acts.
So for the younger audience, I mean, remember we're talking the 60s. We're not talking that long ago. I mean, that's really in the grand scheme of things, that's like yesterday.
Yeah.
There's still an awful lot of people on Earth who remember, just like Bocce and I, and we're getting pretty close to Miss Surefire's memory.
That would be probably Jimmy Carter.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right, and
Another great president.
And Bocce's going to try to tell us that too is history.
That's all right.
Well,
go ahead.
To our audience, it is. Okay, so the civil rights was a big push.
Yep.
Yep. And
but for all the wrong reasons.
And the voting rights, it was all for the wrong reasons.
Right.
It wasn't to help.
No.
The people. It was to
take control.
To control them. To enslave them, just like you said. Other things that happened, Martin Luther King Jr. was murdered. The Vietnam War, which ruined Johnson, ruined him because he misled it. He didn't do a good job in anticipating what was on. He raised the troop level in Vietnam from 3,500 in 1965 to 550,000 by 1968.
Yeah.
So he really pushed
the entire entire island tilted over when they landed.
There you go. Just like
that's what it's been said.
Yeah. So in 1968, he announced that he was not going to run for re-election because he wanted to take time to try to bring peace in Vietnam, which he failed because that didn't happen until President Nixon came into office.
No, he was a domestic policy wonk. He didn't have a clue about international.
Yeah,
foreign policy.
He didn't.
That's a tricky one, foreign policy.
Yes.
So he's a very powerful man.
Two famous phrases. I'm gonna
go ahead.
I'll wait and see if you bring them up. But two things that will always be remembered for. What besides the N-word quote? When Johnson was in the Senate, when he was in the Congress, he was famous for calling a meeting, and the reason for the meeting was whatever issue it was. We're going to all go into Lyndon's office, and we're going to hash this out until we can all agree, was what he told the public. And to other senators, that meant we're all going into Lyndon's office and nobody leaves until you see it his way.
There you go.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, well, that's typical of Johnson.
That was number one.
Yeah.
He got in under very dubious circumstances in terms of voting and ballots down in the Texas Valley. And so the pet phrase, because we found, even back in the early 60s, we found dead people voting. They found all sorts, So jokingly in Texas, we say vote early and vote often.
Okay.
That's the LBJ way. Okay.
Yeah.
Back to history.
Yeah. So as far as scandals was concerned, the big scandal was, of course, the Vietnam War, because Johnson lied over and over and over again of what he was doing in Vietnam. He lied to the American people flat out.
Sure.
And, he got away with it. And, as far as historical significance, what you said, those things that he was remembered for, again, the escalation of the Vietnam War and all of the Great Society policies.
Yeah.
So
he was a crooked SOB. But
yeah.
We have our avid listener.
Hey, Ed, what's up?
Yeah, he wants to
weigh in on.
We didn't say he wanted to say, but I want to say on his behalf.
Okay.
He said, make sure that we know too that the cows voted for LBJ.
Yeah,
I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it. Thank you, Ed.
They pulled out all
Yeah.
the stops to get
I know
him
you
elected.
didn't say it, Ed, but I thought I'd just put it in there.
Yeah. One final quote, and we're finished.
We
okay?
have a chat for those of you that are not aware and are listening to it live. It's the only way you can do it. Podcast, you can't. The chat window is open on the thing called Spreaker, Spreaker.
Yes.
Spreaker.com is how we broadcast, and that's where the live feed is, and the chat window is open when the show's on. Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry.
And this kind of sums up even what's going on today.
Yep.
As far as the media is concerned.
Yep.
And he had a hard time with the media.
Oh, yeah.
Johnson did.
Sure.
So the quote is, if
Good.
one morning I walked on top of the water across the Potomac River,
Potomac.
River,
Right.
the headline that afternoon would read, President can't swim. So, I mean,
He was not without a sense of humor.
well,
that was
yeah,
that was one
but
of
that's really typical of the
yeah.
press.
right.
What he used
Right,
to
right.
call his wife was Lady Bird.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he didn't want to call her Claudia.
Well,
But see, she was LBJ too because she was Lady
The
Bird
Bird Johnson.
just to tell you,
LBJ.
Lucy Baines and what's the other one? They're all had LBJ.
just to oh yeah,
Two daughters.
just to tell you how duplicitous LBJ was. Okay, and Truman said when Truman was in office, one of his famous phrases was, "You don't get rich in politics unless you're a crook."
I remember that.
Okay,
Truman, yes.
and holds true today.
Yeah,
It's
it
always
really
been
does.
Yep.
So, LBJ, one of the other things he's famous for, if you're not familiar, if you've ever flown into Dallas-Fort Worth International, which is this huge airport.
It's like a city in itself.
Right between Dallas and Fort Worth.
Yep.
And it has now become the center of the DFW Metroplex, has built out in concentric circles around Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. If you travel a lot, you may or may not have been through there, right?
That's right.
Okay. Less
is
than
huge.
$5 an acre is what Lady Bird Johnson paid for that pasture land between the two cities. That then everybody turned around. Oh, look, they're building an airport.
Yeah. Guess what?
Yeah, those airports just spring up overnight. It doesn't take any time at all to put one of those together.
I just slap some concrete on.
Yeah, just pour some concrete.
Yep.
Yep, no red tape whatsoever.
All right, folks.
Good job.
See you
Good
next
job.
week.
I mean,
This
you
is
brought up something that we know a lot
well,
about.
yeah,
so.
yeah, and a little bit of humor.
Yeah.
And I am Uncle Bachi, UNCLEBACI at DocOwenShow.com. And if I
Thanks.
said anything wrong or offensive tonight,
Tough.
you can tell me. Just email me.
That's not what you tell me.
Well, yeah, because I know you, so it's tough.
Okay, so how up to snuff? Thank you, Bachi.
Thank you.
You're
Uncle Bob.
welcome.
Good job. And so next week, another unhistorical president, Jimmy Carter. Right?
That'll probably take 2 minutes.
Yeah, we better gear up and have plenty to talk about. We'll just, yes, he was. Here's the dates, and see you.
Oh, can I make two
Actually,
shout outs?
Two? Both at the same time, or you want to do
No,
one now
just
and
one. Because recently, my 13-year-old granddaughter, who is graduating middle school this year,
Oh, how exciting.
she has been accepted. Excuse me for Belly for not knowing the name, but she has been accepted into a program where she will take college level courses in high school. And by the time she finishes high school, she will receive an associate's degree.
That's wonderful.
She got into that.
That's great.
I am so proud of her.
That's great.
I am
How
so
old is she?
proud of her.
14?
She's 13.
That's outstanding.
That's, That's
Well,
wonderful.
two things are outstanding. One, that she's in.
Yeah.
And two, that they have that program.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's really good.
Yeah.
You know, let them learn as fast and as hard as they can while while they're willing to do it. That's great, man.
That's great.
It is. It is.
Congratulations,
Yeah.
Bailey. Good job.
Yes. And the other one is my
If we'd have told us
oldest.
before, we'd have had some canned laps.
Yeah,
applause or
right?
something.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
And my oldest
We used to do
granddaughter, who's 22 now, I think. Yeah, 22. Anyway, we had a gender reveal party.
Oh, yeah.
And
You
guess
found out she
what?
was a girl.
No. I am going to be a great-grandfather. Great-grandfather.
Woo!
Me
Woo!
to a boy. A great-grandbaby boy.
All right.
Can you imagine that? That's awesome.
Nice.
What's his last name going to be?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I have no idea. I don't. Her boyfriend. I don't even know his last name.
Okay. Okay. Just thought I'd ask.
Yeah. So
Okay, so-
anyway, there we go.
Good job. Let's talk a bit about the real March Madness, which where I come. I mean, I'm a basketball fan to the extent of paying attention during March Madness. I mean, I like to see
Me
the
too.
competition.
Yeah.
It's good, clean, hard fought.
Right.
Lots of nail biting going on. I mean, these young people are after it, and
They are.
And to me, the most fun thing about the basketball March Madness is rooting for the underdog.
Yeah.
You know, rooting for the small school, rooting
Yeah.
for, I'm not going to jump up and down if, the University of whatever state loses to some no-name college, some private school that has a good
Yeah.
basketball
Yeah.
team. I think it's great.
It is.
So-
It is great. I even subscribe to it on my Fire TV.
Uh-huh.
And there are colleges I've never, ever, ever heard in the first round.
Oh, yeah.
Never heard of these places.
Well,
Yeah.
but that's
So-
where Gonzaga started. And now
Yeah.
Gonzaga
Gonzaga.
winds up being a
really-
contender in
Yeah,
the,
absolutely.
right up to the very end. But they
Absolutely.
started right out there on the fringe where you were talking about.
Yeah.
And got better every year.
Good for them.
So the other March Madness is this Q thing. Now, I don't know how many of you have taken the Doc Owen show prompt and gotten into the QAnon phenomenon on Twitter. There's a place you can go that's not Twitter. I've given it out almost every week now for about 6 or 8 weeks. It's called qmap.pub, P-U-B, for public. And it is a listing of all the QAnon posts. And you can turn flip a switch and see the interaction of the Q posts and Donald Trump's posts. Okay?
Okay.
Or you can turn it off and just read the Q. So, how shall I start this? If you're not up to snuff, then you may or may not realize what's going on and what you are seeing or not seeing. Mm-hmm. There is a huge battle going on worldwide between good and evil.
Absolutely.
The fight is between the spiritual world of God and Satan. Mm-hmm. And we are witnessing it. And it is playing out in certain parts in the natural world, which is those of us on the show listening to the show and human beings and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But it's a very, very big fight. And it reminds people very entrenched in their religion of the book of Revelations and the end times and the returning of Christ. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, so what I'm telling you is there are some very big things at play that you may or may not be aware of. For instance, let me just give you, and what's going on is it's Trump and the true believers, true patriots against the deep state. The deep state, also known as the New World Order, also known as the Cabal. In other words, you hear the same references. All three of those
Administrative
terms
state, yeah.
are kind of referring to the same group of people. Mm-hmm. And you may think that the battle over the wall on the southern border is about illegal immigrants, but it is not.
Not at all.
It's not.
I agree. I know.
It's about human trafficking and children being sold into this human trafficking ring.
Yes.
And the human trafficking is 10 times as lucrative as dope, as drugs.
Imagine that.
That tells you, and so that's one thing that's going on that you may or may not be aware of. And it's huge. And the human trafficking child sex cult is global with some very, very high profile individuals.
Yeah.
All right. So they're going through, and you've been seeing busts of this traffic ring and that traffic ring in various and sundry municipal locations with all the low end players. Nobody big, nobody of any consequence, but they're still cleaning it up, right? Mm-hmm. And you're aware, I hope, of the school shooting in New Zealand.
Yes.
All right, where, and I'm going to say this.
Was it a school?
Oh, it was a mosque.
Okay. Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
The mosque shooting where supposedly 50 people lost their lives.
Oh, wow. Last I had heard it was 24. That's a lot of people.
I think it's 50. I could be wrong. It was a lot of people. I think it was 50 killed or injured. I think you may be right. Okay. And I only paid semi-partial attention to it for a reason I will explain in just a minute. Number one, I didn't believe it. I've got an entire book on the fact. Now, what was the name of the school up there where Adam Lanza killed about 25 students?
Columbine?
No.
Oh.
The one up on the East Coast in Connecticut or up in there.
Yeah. It's,
what's the name of that school? Inconsequential. It'll pop in our heads in a minute. Yeah. But you remember that event, right?
Yeah.
And there was a lot of naysayers that said those were actors and it never really happened. And there's a lot of detailed information on cell phones, just like the Las Vegas massacre. A lot of detailed information on cell phones that contradicts what you're being told. It's the only way I know to put it. It's all on YouTube. Go do your own research. Don't listen to me. Just go do your own research. Same thing became true of New Zealand. Okay?
Yeah.
What was the first thing they did in New Zealand? They made it, you were punishable by 10 years in prison if you possessed a video of the shooting. If you videoed the live action stuff on your phone, you either had to wipe it out or give it up, or you got caught with it, you got 10 years in prison. The authorities came down like that.
The New Zealand government?
Yes. They've now outlawed guns. They've now outlawed the AR-15, and the new John Podesta. Does that name ring a bell to anybody? Child trafficker, Pizzagate, connected to the that New World Order, deep state, funky people. He was in New Zealand 3 days before this event. All right, let me tell you something that'll really mess you up. They just arrested Adam Lanza, guy in Connecticut, young man in Connecticut that went berserk and shot that school up. What's the name of that school? Anyway, they just arrested Adam Lanza's psychiatrist.
Sandy Hook.
Sandy Hook shooting.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what
they
it was.
just arrested Adam Lanza's psychiatrist that had him on all these freak drugs when he shot the school up. Where did they arrest him? New Zealand. Tied to the event down there.
Seriously?
Seriously. He gave up his practice. He got run out of business. He lost his license and everything in Connecticut, and he moved to New Zealand and set up shop. And the CIA went down there and said, "We got a job for you." I guarantee it. I guarantee it. As sure as I'm standing here. But don't believe me. Check your own facts. You got to know how and where and when to connect the dots.
Yeah.
And the reason that they did that was to change the narrative The deep state has to control the media narrative, to control the minds of the citizens, just like LBJ did when he was handing out $100 bills. Actually 20s, whatever it was. All right? That's what he was doing, was taking absolute control over the slavery, enslaving the minds of the public.
Right.
That's what the deep state, that's what the mainstream media and the deep state have been doing in this country for 50 years, ever since they shot JFK. So Q, this thing, guy, person, group called Q, is reporting all this. So while they're trying to distract you with a New Zealand shooting that was designed to create an outbreak of people wanting to get rid of guns here in the United States, but it just didn't ripple quite far enough. But that's what it was about, was taking the news cycle away from what was actually happening.
Mm-hmm. Just like they did with Northam, the governor of Virginia. Right?
Yeah.
Yep, they distracted from the real problem.
Let me tell you what was actually happening.
Go ahead.
And these are not leaks.
Okay.
Information has been being released. It's what we in the Q world call declassified. Behind closed door Senate hearings and interviews with people all through this Russia investigation thing. They've been conducting all these interviews. All right. And clever Donald Trump has done nothing but give them enough rope to hang themselves. Mm-hmm. Literally.
Yeah.
So now here's who we have, that we have certifiable evidence, not rumors, not gee, I think, but evidence, hard evidence of treason, and mostly, unfortunately, it's about child trafficking and pedophilia. All of these people are involved. Whether they actually participate or not is yet to come out. But they're part of the ring making money off of it. And it's all been going to the Clinton Foundation. Mm-hmm. Let me give you some names you may recognize. And these people, these have just come out during March Madness, right when we're told they were. James Clapper, Obama's Director of National Intelligence.
Yep.
Sally Yates, Obama's U.S. Deputy Attorney General. Uh-huh. Susan Rice,
oh yes,
Obama's National Security Advisor. Loretta Lynch, of Tarmac fame, Obama's U.S. Attorney General. John Brennan, Obama's Director of the CIA. James Comey, Director of the FBI, and Andrew McCabe, the fired Deputy and Acting Director of the FBI. All of those people, it's now on record, they have testimony of what these folks have done. In addition, we have emails between players that people never thought would come out. But the Q network has published these emails. They're not, so this is not hearsay. This is not me saying Uncle Bocce did this, or Uncle Bocce saying Doc did this. I saw him do it. Right? Mm-hmm. This is hard evidence of an email exchange between Uncle Bocce and Doc, so to speak. You follow me? Mm-hmm. Where we're discussing a certain topic. And the topic is the removal of Donald Trump. The email conversation, is going on while Donald Trump is debating Hillary Clinton at the last debate in October of 2016.
Wow.
The concern is it looks like Trump's going to win. And these people cannot stand it. They still can't stand it.
That's why they're going bonkers.
They really couldn't stand it at the time. All right? Mm-hmm. So they're trying to devise a way to keep him from taking office, taking him out, and invoking the Constitution, which will allow the party, and the Republican Party rules more than the Constitution, that if something happened to Trump, then the party would appoint the nominees for president and vice president. In other words, Trump would be replaced. And this is an email chain that, by the grace of God, wound up in what I would call the right hands.
Right.
Because there was somebody in the group that they didn't realize was in the group. A patriot that they did not know was in the group. So now we have these emails. And by the way, these emails use an email server that is known worldwide for its privacy and encryption. You can't crack that server, and if you do, it's all hieroglyphics. You can't read anything.
Wow.
You got to have passwords, etc. Right? So they thought they were just as safe as they could be. So who are the two players? Are you sitting down?
I'm sitting down, yeah.
Yeah.
This is going to blow me away. Right?
Paul Ryan,
Oh, of course.
the Speaker of the House,
Of course.
who was an anti-Trumper, and Mike Pence.
Now that one, when you told
And
me
the
that
president-
earlier,
and the
that
president-
really surprised
And
me.
the president has known about this from, we've said this on the show time and again. Trump knows everything. He has resources and has always had resources long before he got elected that told him everything. Q is only a primary resource to that.
Yeah.
And as we explained early on a few weeks ago, Q, and I was the one that taught me this, Q is actually the call letter for the highest security clearance that there is in the federal government. Right? Did I say it right?
Yeah, pretty close. I mean,
If you've got Q level clearance, you're the president. I mean, you're at that level. So that's why this is called Q.
Wow.
And it's on the money, time after time after time. And there's a reason that they don't want this thing down in Florida, that Epstein Island deal that got pushed under the carpet by the FBI, and they made a deal with him so it never went to trial, and all the information was sealed. You hadn't heard about that? There's a thing that's a child trafficking pedophilia ring operating out of a private island. His plane was called the Lolita Express. Well, now they're opening all of that up, and guess what? They too had somebody from the government on the inside, and now we're seeing pictures.
Wow.
We're seeing every one of these places have had somebody on the inside. So these are not leaks that are dropping. But are you seeing this on the mainstream media?
No, of course not. I don't watch it. But.
One place is talking about it, but not being specific.
Oh, okay.
That's Hannity.
Oh, yeah.
Hannity's the only place.
my mom watches it.
Watches Hannity? Good. So March Madness is definitely going on, but it's not what you may think it is. So, and I'm gathering all this information and checking some of it out, but mostly when I'm seeing the proof that I'm seeing, this is not hearsay. This is not something somebody imagined and tried to connect some dots. These are pictures. These are legitimate emails with email. This is actual evidence, not hearsay.
Right. Right.
But what I like to do is to take it on a world view and connect the dots.
Yeah.
Guess what else they found? Speaking of worldview, correspondence and records of huge donations between the top dog oligarch in the Ukraine and the Clinton Foundation. So where's the Russian collusion that we've all been so worried about?
Yeah.
But if you're just watching the mainstream media, or if you're just watching, if you're not staying in tune with alternate pieces of information, you have absolutely no clue what's really going on. It's one of those things that all right, let me take you back. Since you took me back to LBJ, I'll take you back. At the age of 7th grade, what was it, 14?
That's about right.
13 or 14. Mm-hmm. I realized and I started to put into motion the fact that my psyche was very intuitively in tune with politics. It was just something that interested me. And I paid attention to it, I listened to it, and I thought about it, and I thought about it in a 13-year-old way, in a much bigger picture. I wasn't involved. I didn't have to worry about, what I'm saying? I could be an observer, and I could take it in like a sponge. And my entire life, except for a few gaps, that's never gone away. So I don't spend every waking hour playing with Q on the computer, but I have some good sources that I go to for about an hour a day and get caught up. And, I trust them because they're giving me evidence, they're giving me data, they're giving me points and telling me to go connect them myself. Mm-hmm. I like that. That's all I want. Don't tell me what to think. Just give me the facts. I'll figure out what to think about it. Right?
Amen.
Mm-hmm. Which is which is also what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to give you an alternate side. I'm walking you down the sidewalk on the other side of the street.
Right.
Not on the mainstream media side of the street. All of those are good. You need to take in those points too, because those are players. But those are driven by evil. Those are driven by people that are totally self-interested, and they want the new. They're liberals, they're socialists, they're progressives, they're whatever you want to call them. Notice I didn't mention a political party, but they're whacked. They are not in tune with God. Is the best way of putting it. Mm-hmm. They deny God.
Yeah.
They deny it. They do. They don't want it anywhere around. I can understand that because godly people don't approve of what they're doing.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to walk you down the other side of the street that is in tune with God and telling you things that are going on their side of the street that they're not going to tell you about. Because it's illegal, it's immoral, it's this, it's that, whatever. But you got to take in all the bullet points, and you got to realize El Chapo, for instance, the drug lord from Mexico.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
He was just on trial, right?
Yeah.
What did he do? What did he say that would be of interest to us?
I don't know.
How about the $25 million he gave Nancy Pelosi?
What?
Yeah. How about the $100 million he gave to the president of Mexico? And how about just the few tens of politicians in the United States?
Wow.
So, wonder why we want an open border? Because he paid for it.
Son of a gun. I mean, I know Pelosi's a lunatic,
but
I didn't know she was
he named names.
Wow.
I mean, he was in, he named names. They asked him, he named names. And think about it. Why would he lie?
Right?
Why would he lie? To make himself look good? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think he told the truth in a braggadocious manner. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't hurt me. I
own
these people.
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is, the bulk of the interpretation of the really strange stuff is being done by our autistic community, our savants.
How interesting.
Our people that see things and hear things that we don't see and hear. And we don't know how they do it, they just do it.
Yep.
And in some circles, they're castigated for it. And Q has brought them out.
That's awesome.
Put them into service. It's interesting. It's really an interesting phenomenon. And it's the good and the bad. The God-fearing and the Satan-worshiping against each other.
Yeah.
Now, let me give you a tip. To the audience, let me give you a tip. Just wants to our hysterical routine after this day. You know, because most people, when they say it, don't mean it. They just have a nice day, right? I was at the local coffee shop the other day getting my coffee, and the guy that served me the coffee said, "Have a nice day." I just looked at him and I said, "It's in God's hands." He stepped back from the cash register like, whoa, what did he just say? And then he kind of got his composure and he said, "You're right. You're right. Good job."
How about that?
And it's non-offensive, I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're offended by that, you got bigger problems than I can solve. I've been getting a lot more into my faith lately, and God prompted me to say that. That's where that phrase was put into my head. I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
Boom. So try it. You'll like it, and the people that you run into will like it.
So will Mikey.
Yeah. Mikey likes it.
There you go.
That was an ad back in the LBJ days, I think. So I hope that hasn't been too boring for all of you. We didn't have an interview. It might have been more interesting if somebody would have interviewed me and we'd have done it in an interview instead of just a rant. But I've been paying attention to this for quite a while.
Yeah.
That's
And
important.
an awful lot of what I was told 3, 4, 5, 6 months ago is coming true.
Yeah, and I appreciate
the doc. Front row. Time to go. You have been listening to the Doc Owen Show. Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it. Now go out there this week and take care, pay attention, and God bless.
Bye-bye, folks. God bless.